Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
What's an ethical culture?
Hello, welcome. I can't believe it's Thursday, but then we took Monday off, and then that's what happens. So I think
flying past.
Yes, but that's what discombobulates me. And
oh dear.
I must admit to the crowd that I am so discombobulated that I left this pile of fodder for our free-for-all. Yeah. It's some
we can do multiplication tables.
Oh, no. Isn't it amazing how sometimes you actually aren't sure? I mean, do you ever get where you're doing simple math and you're saying, okay, so 7 times 8, and it's like,
No, I don't get that, but one thing I'll get sometimes is, I'll be writing something, typing, whatever, and I'll type a simple word like kitchen.
And it won't look right.
Yeah. I wonder what that is. I mean, is that like a funny aspect of dyslexia, maybe?
I don't know.
Your mind isn't recognizing which
I don't know.
letters?
Simple word, like one that made me crazy once is the word want, W-A-N-T.
Oh, okay.
I looked at that and thought, isn't that odd? Because it just looked like want.
Want. Or you can be poetic and I want.
Well, you know what? You who are going to be teaching English.
Oh, I'll tell you something about that.
Okay,
yeah.
so the reality is English is an extraordinarily difficult language. For every rule, there are 20 exceptions.
Exactly.
How anybody ever learns how to comprehend our language is beyond.
Well, it was very interesting. I did the first half of my training last Saturday and the second half this coming Saturday. And it was very interesting because my sort of thought about this, and I realized that people are at different levels, was that, people just couldn't read. I mean, they couldn't look at letters saying, the cat ran down the street after the dog or something. But it turns out that a lot of what presumably we will do with our various students is that they can, in many instances, read, but they can't understand the meaning
of what they're reading. They're taking it in, but not taking it.
And so there was this whole bit of talking about, contextualization and understanding that what is being said might not be fact, but might be opinion. So we read this one little story about this kid who was a first-generation American, and his father is a second-generation immigrant, and the grandfather is in Mexico, and they have there's a storm coming, and the kid really he doesn't want to run the store, and that's what his father wants, and then there's a huge storm, and then all the neighbors come and clean up afterwards, and they say, oh, we love your store, you help us, and at the end, the kid says, well, maybe this is my job, maybe this is my home. And so the question is, would people understand that? In other words, why he would change his mind, and he would understand that maybe what he thought was just an odd thing, a humble thing like running a little bodega, really is about the people in the neighborhood and how they stick together in a crisis, and that this level would just be beyond people. And many of the mentees. So it was interesting. But then the whole thing like you say, well, I before E except after C, or how would you pronounce knife when you see it?
Well, no, I know, or think of the word, the ones that drive me crazy are something like enough.
Yeah, right.
Or, all those crazy ones. I mean, there's so many of them, you can't.
Well, partly because in many instances, so many of our words, and I'm not talking about Pi L mode, come from Germanic sources
Right.
Sometimes Indo-European sources, sometimes Latin sources. And therefore, it's not just one monolithic lineage.
That's true. We're, our language I'm trying to find, actually, forgive me for giving you 90% of my attention. I'm trying to find on my email some of the things that I left at home.
Right,
so I'm trying to print them out, and hopefully we'll be able to, although the printer does not seem to want to print. Is there no paper in there? Okay, here comes Jess.
This is a discombobulated morning.
Okay, here we go.
Listeners.
Okay. Here you go. Okay. Wait.
Oh, well, let me start with something. I sent. I have a friend who's heavy-duty Republican, but not in the nastier sense. But anyway, this person has a considerable amount of money and has raised very much money for the Republicans. And so I just sent something, and I said, "Oh, how was it after the convention? Are you still stumping around?" And I said, "When you're next in Pittsburgh, let's have dinner, etc." And then I said, "P.S. I was very, disappointed with Mr. Romney's business about, the moochers and the makers.
Yeah.
And, I said, if not for some loans, I would never have gone to college, blah, blah, blah." And this person, wrote back, sort of like a tweet. "Oh, I'm just exhausted, etc. But please, Tom, that's not what he meant." And I sort of thought, "Oh, I'll let it lay." But I thought, that's indeed what it meant. It's easy enough to say, "Oh, those nasty welfare mothers." But when you say that anyone who has received any help from a quasi-socialist government is a moocher, that is really offensive.
It is. And what they do, and maybe, yes, if he were to refine,
yes.
Of course I'm not talking about people who, have Social Security for disabilities or are fine soldiers. And by the time he starts excising all the fine people, it's dropped down to nothing. Because for them, that is a way of, it's one of their big talking points.
Yeah,
it's one of their big talking points. And it's the Ayn Rand worldview.
Right. But I think this one is
moochers.
I think this one really is going to, land him on the floor because, another friend, she called her parents, and they're very conservative. And she said, "Oh, Mom, can I ask you something?" She said, "Didn't you tell me when father's a CPA now, and they're not well-heeled, but they're well said." And she said, "Didn't you tell me that when you and Dad first got married, you were on welfare for a short time?" "Oh, yeah, that's right. And didn't you say when my sister was born and there was some, they thought, birth defect, you got some assistance for that for 6 months?" "Oh, yes." Well, how can then Mr. Romney say, "Look, you worked hard, yes, you have, but you needed that little extra,"
that's right,
which government provides? And the mother was sort of,
And they have video from Romney's mother.
Oh, really?
Talking about how his father got assistance at one point. What?
And what's bad about that?
Nothing. It shows what absolute disconnection from reality, history, their own reality, their own history.
Right.
It's almost as though whatever it is that they get from government, well, of course, they deserve.
They deserve.
Anyone could see that. But whatever it is you're getting,
yes, right.
That's suspect. That's suspect immediately.
And the thing is, what is so bad? But of course they go to socialism and European, if that's a horrible thing. But I just cannot see what is wrong with a benevolent government. Nothing is wrong with that. Nothing.
Oh, you've been hanging out with too many Europeans.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Europeans.
Well, Sokolowski. I ain't from the manor born in Essex or Sussex. Or...
Yeah, right. But, no, a benevolent government sounds too much to some ears like a paternalistic government, which sounds...
Well, what are Republicans if not paternalistic? Really...
But it's they don't see their own
exactly
paternalism. They don't see their own meddling in people's lives.
Right.
They don't. I don't know. It just I always come back to the mystery of human nature,
Yeah.
the incredible ability of people to see what they have to see, to absolutely be blind to what would pull them into some kind of cognitive dissonance, and to just to run with and I'm sure this is true of you, me, and anybody else to a certain extent. It's very hard to take in the big picture and to be able to process it and to feel comfortable. I think most people need to narrow things and make them simplified. And
Sure. Oh, sure.
It's
I
hard.
mean, a good headline is just 1, 2, 3 words.
That's right.
But, I think the other part of it is, and here we don't want to have sort of racial divide, Wasps against everyone else, but, I mean, we are a nation, we always have been, and hopefully we always will be, a nation of immigrants. And immigrants, because of language, because of cultural things, because of big socioeconomic country divide, Emma Lazarus's poem, they need the extra help, because if you come here as a pig farmer from Sicily, all right, yes, through hard work, etc., but someone has to teach you how to use a cash register, someone has to give you a driver's license, etc., and then all of these people have been hard workers, so many of them, and then they have their little cart, peddlers, we've talked about that, and then all of a sudden they're Barneys.
That's right.
But someone had to help at the beginning. You can't take all these unwashed masses and expect them to fit in, but if you were waspy and came over on the Mayflower, that must have been a pretty big boat, and you've been here for so long, we don't want that scum of the earth. And so it really becomes racist and against the whole creed of our nation is about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, even when I remember when I first found this out, I was so appalled. But makes perfect sense. Same thing. When the first Jews came, well, they tended to be sort of Spanish Jews coming in the 1600s. But then there was a pretty large influx from Germany in at the beginning of the nation and into. So there were and these were relatively well-to-do people. They weren't in tatters. They were educated. They were blah, 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 blah. And those Jewish immigrants became, wealthy here and were took on all the trappings of the Wasps, who, of course, wanted nothing to do with them.
When I was in Norfolk, Virginia, we had the Moses Myers house, which was a house, and he was a merchant.
Yeah.
And it was 1721 or something.
Yeah.
And it was quite a grand
people like Mr. Myers. There were plenty of them. And of course, even though they achieved the American dream, they lived in a way that they could not live in any other nation on earth. They so loved this country, but they weren't accepted either by the WASP establishment. They just weren't. They were Jews. Then, in about toward the turn into the 20th century, when my grandparents came.
Most people's grandparents came, yeah.
Right. And these were people coming from Eastern Europe and Russia. These were not rich people. These were, Tevye from Fiddler on the Roof.
Exactly.
These were people who were poor and were literally running for their lives.
Right.
Okay? When those hordes, my grandparents came, those hordes came in, the German Jews.
Sure.
Well, it's like, who are
they were too Jewish.
What are these? And in a way, well, we don't want people to think that
associate us with them.
Right. However, those German Jews did not turn their back. What they did was set up what they did, the benevolent thing. They set up all of these settlements and things and tried desperately to help these huddled masses, the wretched refuse of the teeming shore, to read and get a leg up and learn how to comport themselves and learn English and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is forever a divide there in some ways. And the first time I dated a Jew, I was quite old. I'd already actually been married and divorced. And he said, he was such a wonderful guy, but he said to me, he said, you're not a German Jew, are you? And I said, his name was Strauss, so I know he was.
Yes, very much.
And I said, no. I said, I'm a Litvak. So, Lithuanian. I said, Lithuanian, Polish, Russian. And he said, uh-oh. And I said, and what does that mean? He said, well, I don't know. He said, but it just...
My mama done told me.
It wasn't the mama. It was literally, there was a whole different... And he was right. He was much more...
Refined or whatever.
He was refined and quiet and, yes, comported himself like a wasp in a lot of ways. And I was this loud, and we both, I mean, opposites can attract, but at some point it can also cause some difficulties.
Sure.
Generations later, that's still
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it sort of says how much, even in our supposedly classless society, the class matters.
Class is forever. People are all...
Money can't buy you class.
No. People are forever.
The Real Housewives of New York. You have to know it. I won't even go there.
Don't, because the next thing you know, we'll be at Honey Boo Boo.
Honey Boo Boo.
Don't. So, today is an anniversary. I just want to point out, this is 1 year ago today, that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. And have you noticed?
The world has not fallen apart. No, they're thinking in the Times, which I just scanned. They said, nothing. And they actually showed a military chaplain marrying two men, one of whom was a military person.
Nothing. Somebody, please inform Rick Santorum that it appears that the nation stands, the Army and Navy and Marines and Air Force stand. All is well. Why do these people do this to us all the time?
Right.
The dread. You cannot give women equal rights. This will happen. That will happen. And no, it doesn't.
Well, that's what the real ultimate punch of the dagger is.
And then
because they're just saying like, oh my God, there should be people rioting the streets. Well, no.
Well, do you hear them now? I mean, are they talking today about
the people?
I mean, what? So Rick just says, never mind. Or, in fact, do they want to repeal that? So if you get... Well, I'm sure it's true. I mean, if Rick Santorum were to... and don't think he won't be back. When he comes back, he'll say...
You and I will be branded with scarlet letters. I mean, not A's, but for Jew for me and Jew for you and fag for me.
Yeah, exactly. Unbelievable. Here's something that happened over the last 24 hours that just blew me away. I apparently printed it out 7,000 times. There was a bill that would have provided job training for our veterans that have come back from Iraq and Afghanistan. It was modeled on FDR's CCC, Civilian Conservation Corps.
Right.
So it would be a governmental program in which our veterans who are having trouble finding work now that they've come home.
And some have come home
not
broken.
Quite right. They would have been put, they would have had a leg up in filling in fire departments and in police departments in their own hometowns and states. And the bill just sounds wonderful. And it sounds like the kind of thing where you take the skills that they, in fact, have learned.
Certainly.
And you put them in places where, and the government, yes, would be subsidizing this, and everybody wins, and we do the right thing, by the way, for these people. Well, the bill went down yesterday in the Senate. And it went down for want of 2 votes. those voting against this program to help our veterans were, to a man and woman, Republicans. Now,
and what was their logic?
Including our Senator Toomey. Their logic was, they tried to hide behind some procedural thing. There was this that wouldn't have that. And then when somebody actually tried to talk, they said, well, we are not assured that this would work, blah, blah, blah. And understand that this bill, the Democrats so wanted this to get through that from day one, they worked with the Republicans on it. They went to the Republicans and said, you're going to help write this thing for us. Please tell me what it is. You look at it. What do you think's missing? What do you need in here? And they did. In fact, Pat Toomey, our nice Republican senator, did actually write part of that bill. He voted against it. 4 or 5, I'm blanking now on the number, Republicans did vote for it. And in many respects are the usual suspects. And interestingly, most of those Republicans were females. Isn't that something? It was the 2 women from, it was Snow and Lankin. And it was Murkowski from Alaska. And I can't think of who else. But
in this case,
what?
Well, it's interesting. I was just thinking, before one could have said, well, there was a what do you call it when conscription? So everyone has to go for war. It's such, well, we don't have it. We haven't had it for a long time. These people volunteered to go into the military. When they knew preponderantly they would be going to places of civil strife. I mean, military strife. Come back gassed or without a limb or psychologically broken, and then we just throw them into the rubbish. And if some of them have turned to drugs, we sort of say, "Oh, you're using drugs. We throw you out the rubbish."
That will throw you in jail.
Yeah, we'll throw you in jail. But don't forget that you had 3 of your buddies blown up in front of you, that you had to shoot a young Iraqi mother and her 2 children because you thought they were, carrying bombs. I mean, maybe they were, but the point is that has to scar you at night just to dream of that.
No, of course you're.
And then we don't do something that can help them. I mean, we're responsible for them.
Our former congressman from the Philly area, who was also the first Iraqi war vet elected to Congress, Patrick Murphy, who is there, by the way, no more. He called this an absolute disgrace. An absolute disgrace. And he said the Republicans are looking for excuse after excuse after excuse to obstruct any progress because there's an election 6.5 weeks away, and they do not want to give something for President Obama to be able to stand up and say, look what we did. But of course he would have said, look what the Republicans and we did. We can work together. See, this is and apparently at some press conference afterwards, the Republicans literally, they made their statement and then ran. They did not take one question.
No, that's one thing about Obama. He really has said, we work together. This is, what's the word? What's it called?
Bipartisan?
Bipartisan bill we worked on or whatever.
Yes.
He's always giving credit to that.
I know.
That's disgusting. Disgusting.
So here's somebody who writes this, and here it is. So let me get this straight. Handing billions to contractors, defense contractors, that is not an issue for these Republicans in Afghanistan and Iraq. But spending money toward employing our soldiers who fought that war, that's a problem. Unbelievable.
It's not even a conundrum. It's just bullshit. I mean, it's just incredible.
What's also fascinating is that this was the party that used to... wasn't it a given that troops, of course, vote Republican because Republicans are for the troops? How the hell are Republicans for the troops? All Republicans are for is sending them into harm's way.
Right,
That's
and
all they want to do.
draping the flags all over the place.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like, what demographic do these Republicans think is going to be left to vote for them?
Right. Because if these guys come back, they can't get jobs, etc., I don't think they're going to want to vote Republican, especially when preponderantly they're Latino, they're black, the military today, you know.
So you look at all the polls with the presidential race, the huge gap with Hispanic support, right? The Republicans have next to none of it. Women, the gap is huge. Jews, the gap continues to be huge. No matter what people think about that, that is still huge. 2/3 easily of Jews vote Democrat. And what other? I mean, I'm thinking young people
who don't vote.
Well, I don't know that.
Well, I hope it's not the case.
The polls now are looking so good that they're scary. Yeah. There's not a swing state that it looks like Obama's not leading in at the moment. There are Senate races that never in my wildest dream would I thought the Democrats could win. For instance, in my home state of Wisconsin, where I assume that is an open seat because the Democrat that held it, Herb Kohl, decided to get the hell out of this godforsaken, Senate. Didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. And the Democrats put up the first openly lesbian congresswoman to run for Tammy Baldwin.
Right.
So impressive as hell woman. But Wisconsin, as we have all come to know, seems to want to be turning into a red state, and is full of people who vote
Paul
for
Ryan.
Paul Ryan and Scott Walker and the people who support them. And then the Republicans put up to run against her somebody who was very popular in that state, a former 2-term governor, Tommy Thompson, who also was in Bush's cabinet.
Oh.
I just thought Thompson would kill her. The last poll shows her. She was way down. All of a sudden, she's 6 points ahead of Thompson.
Wow, interesting. What is it?
Massachusetts, Scott Brown and
the playgirl.
Well, she's not a playgirl.
No. Tommy Scott, whatever, wasn't he? Yeah.
Him. Yeah, I'm talking about the Elizabeth Warren, who's running.
Warren, right?
He was on top. Now she's on top.
What's
in
happening?
Virginia? Kane is beating that guy. Remember who? Oh God, why am I blanking on all these names? These are all Democrats who people would have said, I don't know if they can.
What is the offhand? What is happening with Mr.
Missouri?
Aiken? Yeah,
it's just
flat.
tight. And it's tight as hell. It's tight as hell. Apparently, it shows McCaskill ahead by a nose, but. Isn't that amazing that someone's could win? But I'm starting to think, we keep calling this is going to be an exceedingly close election, and I guess it will be. But in the back of my head, I'm starting to wonder if it could be one of those what are called wave elections, where the electorate, seeing these Republicans up close and personal, get so freaked that that the Democrats not only hold the Senate, but maybe even pick seats up, and they pick seats up in the House. It's not going to be. It won't be that huge. It just can't be because of the way redistricting works now. But
that's true.
If I were a Republican, I would be really a total wreck.
Well, I read I heard this was on NPR. Some states. Where I guess it's decided either one way or the other. It's not. No, this has to be the red states. That some state races, they've asked the Romney not to come there, and
Oh, that's right. And you've got a lot of congressional candidates and senatorial candidates absolutely disavowing. As a matter of fact, Scott Brown in Massachusetts has pretty much said.
Yes, he was one of them. Yeah, right.
They don't want to have anything to do with him. And remember that prior to the Democratic convention, everybody was talking about how all these Democrats weren't coming because they didn't want to be associated with Barack Obama.
Yeah, right.
And now it looks like they'll be riding his coattails.
Right.
So, I don't know. I do not know. It's almost over, though, Tom. What's the date? The 20th. So, we've got about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks.
May it pass quickly, as they say in Turkish prisons when they sentence you.
Well, I'm sure it doesn't in a Turkish prison.
I'm sure it doesn't either.
Oh, man. I think we got to get a break in here. It's Lynn Cullen with Tom Sokolowski, as is our habit on a Thursday. And we'll be back in a moment.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
BergBargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, the City Theater, History Museum, Carnegie Museums, and some of the best restaurants in Pittsburgh. This week, get 40% off gift cards to the Harris Grill in Shadyside. BergBargains.com. Local deals, local merchants. BergBargains.com.
Okay, here we are. Time to talk about the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council. Yes. I should turn to you. You're the resident expert.
Oh, well, I did.
So how many people were in this indoctrination
class? I would
class?
say there were about 20 of us.
Oh, that's wonderful. Mostly female.
60-40.
Okay.
Not preponderantly, 60-40.
Okay.
And they were arranged. There was one college student. There were a couple of sort of slightly older teachers who had retired. It was funny. One woman said to me, we had the break, and she said, "Oh, I know who you are. I listen to Lynn Cullen all the time." So that was nice. And then just various people. There was a mixture of black and white, and some people who had done some tutoring of various sorts with children, and now they thought they wanted to move on to adults. And it was very interesting. And we had 3 different people who spoke to us on various levels of expertise, and it was very interesting. As I was saying to Lynn earlier, I just assumed it was going to be, see the cat run, and you use phonics to get people to pronounce words. But a lot of it seemed, was that people could read the words, unless they were huge words, but they couldn't quite understand.
They weren't digesting them.
Especially when they were sort of text that had an opinion to them, not like
a point of view.
A point of view, right? Exactly.
Send them.
They could say, put 2 teaspoons of powder into them, such and such. And after they spoke to us, and they're going to do more of that this coming Saturday, they will select someone who they think we would work best with.
Oh, so they actually do pair you one-on-one with somebody.
Not, specifically. I mean, I'm sure there's no one who's running an art museum for me to work with. But, I mean, neighborhoods, issues like maybe people who have children, with other people who have children. And then there was just a lot of talk that very oftentimes, which sometimes 40% of the tutors will find, is that they may need to go through 1 or 2 students
to find the right
one, right mixture, but also that people can come in very disgruntled because they've been rebuffed so many times, or that many of the reasons people are late or miss a lesson is that they have a work situation or a home situation
or a transportation situation. So all of that. Well, so it's a big to-do.
Yeah.
And you sound as though you're impressed, though, with
I was very impressed. Yeah. Because they really go into all sorts of things. This week, we're going to have to, I guess, part of it, do a lesson plan. I remember teachers always saying, "Oh, I have my lesson plan," so that you know what you're going to do and how you sometimes just need to repeat things. It was very funny. They started out, and I thought this was very clever, using the Cyrillic alphabet. Russian alphabet, and they didn't have real, because if I was reading it, because I can read Russian a little bit, and I was thinking, what the hell is this? But they were doing words with the Cyrillic alphabet, but that were English words. And so when you first looked at it, it was like, and to give the notion of this is what it's like
for them, for your student, right?
So you'd go and you'd say, that's the P sound, so pop, and that's the K sound. And we went over and over and over, and I was like, But they made the point of saying sometimes you really need to just hammer, drill it in, because people just have more difficulty. And so it was interesting. Really, I thought it was very interesting.
So we got Tom. How about you? I'm glad to hear there's that many in the class. the Greater Pittsburgh Literacy Council could never have enough good people like this. So think of joining the crowd, hobnobbing with some good folks. Mm-hmm. And the phone number for the Literacy Council is 412-393-7600, or you can check them out on the internet at gplc.org.
This is the sound of a flat-screen television hurled off a building. Now the new bike your kid wants. These are the things you could have, all cast into oblivion. Because when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have bought with it. Use Energy Star light bulbs and appliances, and you could save hundreds of dollars a year. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
What is NECA? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Oh.
Chris wrote us that I know you detest Honey Boo Boo, but you have to let Tom know that next week's episode is the season finale, and it's going to be on for a full hour. You know, yeah, at the end of which you will be a total idiot. Yeah. At the end of which your IQ will have dropped 75 points.
Yeah, really.
Plus, Chris writes, more good news. It got renewed for a second season. That show for me is truly a train wreck. You can't help but sit there with your jaw dropped and watch. I read yesterday that the family wants a pay increase. They make $4,000 an episode. They are looking for 10 thou. Actually, they should get 10.
Well, I mean, if they're bringing them in, it's like any program.
And that's for the whole family. I mean, technically, each one of them should be getting paid individually. I'd like to be their agent.
Their agent is probably some Madison Avenue dress.
I don't know, but I mean, they're making money hand over fist for this network. I think they should. That pay is low, just because they don't know it, or it's a lot to them.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to them, I think.
Jeez. Was there any news we're supposed to be talking about? I don't think so.
Well, just go back to Honey Boo Boo for a second.
Oh,
no. Wait, I want to try to be academic about this. Right. You know, how many years was it? The 60s when we had the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes.
But now that was scripted. And although they made like cutesy things, they didn't know what a flush toilet was, etc. It always came off at the end that like grandma or whatever was wise, whatever. And so we played off of the hick or the whatever. But here it is. It's like
this is
looking at the
real
peasant.
People. Yeah.
Well, and the meanest of them. I mean, there could be poor people and poor crackers, to use that nasty term. But again, who are wise and whatever. But they've picked the laziest, nastiest.
Do any of them have jobs?
I don't know. Is the father?
The dad, Sugar Bear.
Sugar Bear, the poor father, works.
He works 7 days a week.
He works 7 days a week?
Sometimes like double shifts.
Double shifts.
Doing what?
Trying to stay away from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does he do?
Right.
I don't remember.
Okay. So he's not a moocher. Yeah. He's a hard-working guy.
But again, what's interesting in these sort of Republican times, that the show comes out, which is really rich people's looking at poor people
at what
laughing.
They think of. That's true.
I mean, whereas Beverly Hillbillies was sort of folkloric and all of that. But I also love, was it Maureen Dowd? Or no, it was Maureen Dowd, who called Romney Thurston Howell.
Yeah, Thurston Howell. Yeah.
Well, and what I loved about it was the fact that they didn't even reference, because wasn't that the character on
Gilligan's Island?
And the fact that they didn't even have a footnote.
Well, you know what's funny is I didn't know who Thurston Howell was.
Really?
I thought I recognized the name, sort of, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then I saw, where, for idiots like me, somebody said from Gilligan's Island. Yes. I thought, because I never watched. When was that on?
Oh, God.
In the 70s?
Oh, no, 60s. 60s. Definitely.
I never watched TV much.
As a kid, really?
As a kid, wow. I never did. And thank God. So when people talk about all these sitcoms and things, I never saw them. I don't
Wow.
know. You know, all those ones, the ones with a blended family, I Dream of Jeannie, and I'm trying to think of the sort of more iconic ones that everybody's always talking about.
And that's what's
My Three
interesting
Sons.
because so much...
I never watched any of that.
So much of American culture is TV generated, good and bad.
Yeah, and I'm out of it.
You're out of it. Well, it's just like I remember when I was at the War Home Museum, I'm a gay person, and had a number of younger kids, in their 40s, 30s, 20s, and I'd make sort of a reference to, traditional gay culture, Betty Davis film. They'd say, "Oh, we've never seen that movie. You've never seen All About Eve?
Oh,
you are
God.
not a gay person."
Oh,
You'd
no.
be shocked. And
That
it was
is
just generational.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you got
Now
to
you have
see
Lady
that.
Gaga. Well, no, because it's a great movie, but I think it is slightly generational because, again, some of that was going back to what we were saying about immigrants. You had common knowledge of the shtetl, whether it was gay, misthing kind of craziness, and then now you don't need that so much anymore.
Right,
You're more mainstream, even though at certain times it's pointed out to you just how not mainstream you are. But it's not the veils of secrecy of the closet aren't necessary anymore, whatever kind of closet it is.
I wonder
Except
what I was
those Republicans
doing.
who want to push them in. Oh, you mean you were playing dominoes or something?
I don't know, and I don't have a recollection of I don't know.
Did your parents not watch television either?
They did some. My sister watched constantly.
Okay,
But
interesting.
she was almost 4 years younger. But so
Okay.
I think my brother and I just sort of we didn't get a television until, I don't know, like 54, maybe 55.
Well, that was probably fairly... Well, no, that was still pretty early.
It
'Cause-
was?
Oh, yeah, TV really didn't start, I think...
No.
No, 49 or something, when that could be commonly...
Well,
No, I think many people didn't get
all
TV
I know
till
is
the
that,
later
my
50s.
memories are, my only fond memories of television, early television, are the Honeymooners.
That's very early.
But that's what I loved. I loved the
No, I know,
Honeymooners.
but yeah.
I remember Phil Silvers. I remember Sid Caesar. I remember those old shows.
Well, and you know what's very
Jackie
funny?
Gleason's
I was just
show,
thinking
too.
back to my Honey
Ed
Boo Boo
Sullivan.
/ Beverly Hillbillies. So to the Honeymooners. That was working class,
Total.
Coldwater Flat,
Right.
New York, with sort of rude people. And there was halvesies because at one point, like the wives always sort of had common sense.
That's right.
But Jackie Gleason and what was the other one's name?
Art Carney.
Art Carney. They always, especially Jackie Gleason, was always sort of a lout.
He was
Yeah.
a total lout.
Yeah.
But
And I guess he became Carol
was he
O'Connor.
brilliant.
Now, did you
Was he
watch
brilliant.
All in the Family?
a little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
But
Did you
again-
see Sally Struthers got arrested for drunk driving?
Oh, she did? Sally Struthers.
Oh, where are we
really.
going? Stop it. Okay, so here, I want to ask you something about, I want to tell you something in the art world,
Team.
because you're our resident art person.
Okay.
So, the governor of New York, that would be one, Andrew Cuomo, has created a panel that is charged with coming up with a new design. They're going to totally rebuild one of the big bridges in New York City,
Which one is it?
the Tappan Zee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's an old junky one, yeah.
It's an old junky one. They want it to be
Beautiful.
glorious.
Yes, okay.
Okay, so did you hear who's on the committee?
No.
All right, I'll give you this. Yeah, I wouldn't. I recognize only one name. It says renowned architect Richard Meyer.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Thomas Campbell. And Jeff Koons.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. Jeff Koons.
Well, no, I shouldn't say
Who
that's
is an
bizarre.
artist.
Who's a very important artist.
Yes, but we think
But
of
he's-
him as, you ever see those big balloon dogs
right,
and things
right,
like that? That's Jeff Koons.
Right. Well, I mean, he certainly knows how to make spectacle. And if you're going to make a bridge, for lack of anything, it's a spectacle because it's huge and it spans water. And he could perhaps have an interesting idea, but it's so funny because I've never heard of him being placed on any kind of jury, partly because, I mean, I've met him a few times, but nothing more than that. But his role, when I've seen him on some panels, is always, he's always sort of acting. And for him to take something like that really serious, not to say that, because he obviously has a great deal of agendas in his art and he's very smart. Who knows? He maybe could. And with fellow panelists like Richard Meyer and Tom Campbell, it could be a very interesting mix.
Also included Alison Spear, an architect,
Yes.
Keith Brownlee, a bridge designer,
Don't know him.
Thomas Wormuth, a historian.
Don't know him either.
Okay.
But that's a nice mix.
So...
I know Alison Spear. Yeah, I know who she is. Yeah.
Okay. So Cuomo said, look, we want something that is going to be a really beautiful thing that's going to be there for 150 years. And here, somebody was having fun saying that it'll look like this with balloons. Balloons and dogs and flowers. But... he said nobody has any particular design in mind, and he said, I think we'll know it when we see it, Okay, so that's wow. That's going to be a huge undertaking. I mean, no one will mind seeing the current Tappan Zee Bridge go.
Right, exactly.
What's the most beautiful bridge in New York?
Well, the Brooklyn Bridge is wonderful.
Yes, it is.
And the Verrazzano, just because of where it is and the huge span of it,
but the Brooklyn Bridge.
Brooklyn Bridge is beautiful, yeah. I always remember when I lived in New York in the early 70s when pollution was really bad. I would love at times, late in the afternoon, because when the sun was going down, it would hit all the noxious gases, and you'd see it. Oh, it was spectacular.
Pollution made for great sunsets.
Made for good sunsets and more postcards. It was always over the Verrazzano Bridge. But no, the Brooklyn Bridge is quite beautiful. Because it's, I don't know what you call the not the stanchions, from which the suspended metal is hung, the brick ones. There's a name for that. They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, look, almost like a medieval turret, sort of.
A bridge by its very nature is astonishing to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is.
We just blithely cross them and, walk by them. And if you think about it, God.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I remember going on the one, which is not very big. The span is not very long, but in Bilbao, next to the
museum.
Next to the museum, is this pedestrian bridge by Calatrava, who's a Spaniard. And, it's just wonderful. It's like walking through a woven spider web. Just beautiful. Really, really beautiful. And the Millennium Bridge, I can't remember who the hell did it in London that was done for the Millennium. I remember when you first walked on it, it sort of swayed and they had to fix it. I took a group that year to London. We were on it.
Well, they do have to give.
Oh, they have to give a bit,
they have to give a lot.
And everything.
Yeah.
But this was giving too much.
You're sort of hanging on as it swings.
Well,
but
you could feel it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like zooming.
You've been on the Fort Pitt Bridge when you get stuck and you don't feel it moving. I felt that bridge move. I have. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think, what's that one beautiful bridge? Is it the 18th Street Bridge? That almost
had that gorgeous things on them.
Yeah, that's a really pretty bridge.
Near the History Center.
No. Near the History Center? No. Oh, well, yeah, sort of, yeah. Or the other one that's so pretty, I think, is the...
is down further on the...
No, the Smithfield Bridge is
it's gorgeous.
Too.
Beyond belief gorgeous.
I think the Victorian era was, very great for the city in terms of design and architecture. And
here's a little snippet about the moochers. About 25% of seniors receiving Medicare spend all their savings and must sell their homes and other assets to pay for non-covered medical care in the last 5 years of life.
And these are people who probably worked
they worked all their lives, and they have to literally impoverish themselves in order to have a bed and a roof over their heads. And this is the great American way.
Right.
This is our system.
What is that? What is that? There's that insurance that people have where you can, if you know you're dying, you can...
Reverse insurance.
No, there's no name for it.
I don't know.
A very fancy, like, jargon word. Because I remember Ed McMahon selling it for a while.
Well,
on
I think
TV.
that's sort of what he does, where you just sort of...
Yeah, but there's a name for it. It's not.
Yeah, but
just
if you don't die in time, it seems
that's
to me
right.
you'd end up in the hole. And I mean,
No,
then
but
you
I
end
think
up-
if once you sign it, there was a woman I remember, and she had cancer, and I guess then it went into remission, and she lived 10 years longer, but they still had to pay her.
Oh, they did have
There's
to
a
pay.
name for it. Oh,
I don't know.
Listeners, if any of you know what I'm talking
Well,
about,
of course they
I want to say morganatic, but that's like the marriage of a royal to a non-royal, the morganatic marriage of Edward VIII and Duchess of Windsor.
Oh, okay. I never heard that before.
Yeah.
Morganatic?
Yeah. I forgot where it comes from. Someone probably knows.
Oh, that's the word I learned
but
today.
but
I
it's
always learn
not.
a word with you.
But that's not what I'm thinking of. But anyway.
Let's go to a break and maybe something will come.
Yes. Maybe the Duchess of Windsor will come back from the grave and tell
Oh,
us.
God, what a vile woman.
And tell us what her sexual tricks were. So
Yeah,
we can...
she's spinning in hell as
she
we
probably
speak.
is, yeah.
Okay, we'll be back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
The Pittsburgher Burger Competition and Music Festival benefiting the American Liver Foundation comes to the Rivers Casino on Saturday, September 29th from 1 to 7. See Pittsburgh's best restaurants compete for the title of Best Burger in the Burg. Sample and vote for your favorite burger while you listen to great Pittsburgh bands and enjoy ice-cold Amstel Light. For more information and to buy tickets, go to midnightguru.com. The Pittsburgher Burger Competition on Saturday, September 29th at the Rivers Casino. Get ready to get your burger on. Sponsored by Amstel Light and produced by Diane Rua Media. Gambling problem? Call 800-848-1880.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Jim Brewer, the Lebanese Food Festival, Roy Haynes, and Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania. On the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Get Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen Live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Probably. God. Woo! Trying to think. See, this is what happens when I leave all my stuff at home.
I know you need your notes. I know the feeling.
You do?
Oh, yes. You teach, you have to have crib notes and a... You can't remember.
What was I going to say? Well, let me... I know. I wanted to ask you about this. So what do you make of the Boy Scouts? Did you see this?
No.
How they had a perversion file that they kept for over 100 years. They did the same thing the Catholic Church did. If they knew a scout had molested somebody, they just, let him quietly went away.
Send him to Grand Rapids or something.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, they let him go. They did not report him. What is it about these male-dominated systems that... I don't think I'm wrong in making.
Well,
it,
and I think let's put it this way.
male.
I think no, because obviously most of the molestation is men on men. Well, no, but most of the molesters are men. It isn't always men on men. But I think what's interesting is Catholic Church and or the Boy Scouts. They are male organizations, and I think people go into them not just molesters by any means, because it's not the preponderance in either instance, but because they like being in the company of men, or they really like being in the company of men.
Boys.
Oh, boys. No, but even if it's not that, but just like bonding, even if there's never any, what did Jimmy Carter say? I sinned in my heart. But
I lusted in my
heart. But I think it's just like they like that company, and they feel there, whatever kind of mateyism, as like the Australians would say, is okay, and boys with their arms around one another, because that's the sporty, matey thing to do.
It's okay in that
context. And so it's just ripe for rape.
Ripe for rape.
Well, that's a T-shirt almost, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I don't think anyone would want to wear it, but...
Hussies, maybe, but...
No, I don't think anyone would.
Yeah, it could be ripe for rape, and the backside can say... I have a knowledgeable uterus. after with the gun thing, now they know the uterus can say, "Oh, that's a rape sperm."
I see. Rape sperm. We'll get rid of that immediately.
Ding dong.
Oh, did you see they're doing uterus transplants now?
I saw that. Yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
Wow, a woman who got her mother's uterus. You can see a mother saying, "Hey, I don't need this anymore." Here, how would you like these?
Go back?
How would you like these earrings and my uterus?
My uterus. But on the same level of parts, maybe a different part. The other thing in the paper I thought was interesting is that of the X number of donor organs, when someone dies, they either, because they're too slow to match, get thrown away. Or then I suppose if they're sent to a lab where students, medical students can work on them, that there's some therapeutic aspect to that. But just sort of saying, hey guys, we got about 40 uteruses, 1 kidney, and 6 feet of bowel. Let's make our best,
Oh, God!
Because I always remember, this is partly, through TV. It's a leitmotif today. But, when we have a heart. Do you need it in Tuscaloosa? And then it's rushing onto the helicopter. Because I know there's only a certain amount of time before the organ dies.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I remember I was once on a plane where they had...
A guy had a heart with him?
Well, it was in a cooler.
Yeah, no, in
like
a cooler.
Pabst Blue Ribbon
I've seen that, too. I have seen a cooler with I don't know what kind of sign that had on it. Clearly was carrying an organ.
I said to this person, I said, "Oh, do you have to run? I'll sit in my seat." He said, "It's not that bad," But I don't forget what they said. He told me, was it 36 hours? And then the matching, like, should Lynn Cullen get it? Should Jess get it? Should Tom get it? And all these statistics, and do rich people? Because there certainly has been that situation of. In this country, I think it was mostly sort of related to Asian gangs, where they literally would, give someone knockout drops and just cut out their kidney,
right.
And then call up the police and say, Joe needs help there in Central Park.
Yeah.
And they had doctors who, could take it out without killing the person. But
are you signed on to any like bone marrow things and stuff? Yeah, I signed up, gosh, a million years ago, maybe 30 years ago, and I got a call one day.
Are you dead, Lynn?
What?
No.
For bone marrow, you're not.
Oh, that's
dead.
right. They could just take a puncture.
I got a call. I'm trying to remember where it came from, but somewhere in the Midwest, and they wanted to talk to me, and they said that I was a potential match for somebody, and they needed to ask me more questions. And I'm thinking, geez, you mean I'm really gonna woo-wee? And they asked, the questions were amazing.
Can you dance the polka?
Well, it was something. There was stuff about my back. So they said, I mentioned that I did have some back pain and blah, 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 and this and that. And they thanked me very much and then said they'd get back to me. And they eventually did get back to me and said that they
found a better match.
They'd passed on me not because they didn't think I was a good match, but I guess they thought a better match, but they were concerned about the impact on me of the extraction or something.
Well, I've heard, we were talking last time or whatever it was about the shots in your stomach for rabies.
Yeah.
I knew someone who had given bone, or they just had to test it or whatever, but supposedly
it's very painful. Right.
Because it's a big bore.
Big bore that they stick in your back, up your, Yeah, so I was, and I did feel spared, but it would have been, I would have been really honored to be able to make that kind of a
Well, it's very interesting, and this is public. So the director of the Westmoreland Museum, Judy O'Toole, do you know her? Mm-hmm. She had a problem with kidneys, and she had one she lost a kidney, and then she had a problem with the second one, and a staff member of hers was a match and agreed to give her kidney. And there's still now, that happened just like when I got here, like 15 years ago, and she's doing fine.
Wow.
I remember saying to the curator, who I know professionally.
Did you get a raise?
I said, I don't think you'll ever be fired, dear. But that's really quite something.
Yeah,
to say
it is.
To your colleague, no matter what you like, because it's that funny, you never know. Yeah, you do have 2 kidneys, but what if the one goes bad once you...
Yeah, right. Wow. It is amazing.
But that tells you again about the wonderfulness of the human spirit. When people are, someone else is in more need than you are, and you do it. You step in.
Well, you socialist, you.
European.
European. Well, I guess Republicans wouldn't have a problem with that if it was just done solely person to person with no governmental interference or something. But of course there's government.
I don't want a Negro kidney. That sort of thing.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's been instances of that. You're giving me a Chinese liver? You're giving me... I know it's ridiculous, but people...
During World War II, they wouldn't take blood transfusion. They wouldn't take blood from black
I didn't realize
soldiers.
That.
No. I'm quite sure that is correct. And how many people might have died for want?
Exactly. Give me your blood. I don't care who you are.
Oh, Jesus. God.
And I think so we're near the ending. And what do you think of this thing of rice having arsenic in it?
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. I thought rice was something we were supposed to eat because it was good for you.
Good for you and salt of the earth.
And it's arsenic?
Yeah.
And so they're actually saying, well, so if you're feeding your baby rice cereal, maybe just once a week. And I'm thinking of all these scared young mothers who have been giving, every morning for breakfast. Oh, my God.
And what is it?
Have a little arsenic, darling.
Arsenic is it's leaching to the water?
It's naturally occurring in the water, and rice comes out of watery places. I don't know. Sometimes
just think of all the Chinese takeouts going to go down today. And
I think sometimes we know too much.
Well, that's it. Although it seems to be, it's news, so it's like, yeah. But I mean, you'd have to eat, I would think.
A lot of rice.
Yeah, and maybe if you're a newborn baby, there is some some thought to it, but...
Switch over to oats, and then they'll find that oats have, strychnine in it.
If you're, what do you call it, wheat intolerant?
If you're,
you can't do that.
Well,
whatever it's called.
Punt.
Yeah, punt.
Okay, you guys. I think we done did it. This was really a show about absolutely nothing in particular, wasn't it?
Yeah, we're the Seinfelds of...
of whatever this is.
The Paris of Appalachia.
The Paris of Appalachia. Okay, you guys, enjoy this gorgeous day.
Gorgeous Thursday.
Love this. And Tom will be back next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be back tomorrow. And I think we got these 2 hip-hop guys coming tomorrow who are going to be performing at the August Wilson Center.
Oh, nice.
And they're not just any ordinary hip-hop guys. They're hip-hop guys in wheelchairs.
Oh, wow.
And they got a definite point of view and a thing to say because they got shot.
Oh.
Yeah. Heavy-duty stuff. I just got to find their phone number.
Well, then they may not be here. You can't find them.
See ya.
Local hip-hop?
No, not local. It just occurred to me.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.